So my business card is done. I have considered the size of my card, the orientation of my card, whether or not I want one side or two sides printed, the placement of my elements, their alignment relative to each other. I've made sure that I've accounted for a bleed, as demonstrated by this outer guide here, 1/8 of an inch outside of the edge of my card, which is represented by this inner guide. I've considered the color and my printing options and my paper options. I now need to send my files to the printer. You may remember that I opted to work with my own template rather than using one of the Illustrator templates. The advantage of doing that was being able to design the front and the back side on the same page. I just found that more convenient. But now's the time when I need to copy and paste each of these into a separate document. So I'm going to select the front side, and I also want to take with this the guides as well. So I need to unlock my guides. And then make that selection again. And I'll also select the guides. Copy. And this time I am going to use one of those Illustrator templates rather than reinvent the wheel myself. File, New from Template, in the Basic folder. In the Blank Templates folder, I'm going to use this one, Business Card 1. So we're seeing this at quite an enlarged percentage, 302% in my case. The black line represents the edge of our artboard, which has trim marks around it. So I'm now going to paste my artwork, which is on the clipboard, and then drag that down and dock that into position, which is right there. See things without my guides for a moment. And yes, I have my element bleeding over the edge of the artboard, and that all looks good. One final step, and we did this with the logo as well, and this is just an insurance really, just in case the printer doesn't have the fonts that I have. Now I want to save this, and then working on a copy, I am going to select all, create outlines. That way there aren't going to be any font substitution issues. Typically the printer is going to want to receive your files one up, i.e. just a single business card on a 3.5 by 2 inch artboard. But some may prefer that you gang up the business cards 8 to a page. Let's see how we can do that. So in this instance, I'm going to create a new document, a letter-sized document. This is how we can create multiple business cards on the same page. So I will paste my first instance in the top left-hand corner of the page. I'm going to move it over slightly because I need room to add some crop marks to that. Then I'm going to zoom in. My guides are locked, so I'm going to unlock them. I'm going to select this guide, which represents the edges of my business card. And then from the View menu, remember we began by drawing that as a rectangle that we turned into guides. I'm now going to reverse that, choose Release Guides. Having done that, I want to make sure that this rectangle has no stroke on it, so I'm going to make that none. With it still selected, Filter menu, Create Crop Marks. So it's drawn crop marks around that rectangle, which is now invisible because it has no fill and no stroke. So I'm now going to zoom out. Make sure I have everything selected, but I will at this point lock the guides because I don't want to duplicate those as well. And then I'm going to come to the Effect menu and choose Distort and Transform, Transform. First of all, I'm going to create multiples down. I want 3 copies. Now the size of my business card is 2 inches, but by the time I factor in the space allowed for the crop marks as well, I think I want to move down about 2 3/4 inches. And that needs to be a minus number, minus 2.75. Let's turn on my preview and see how that's going to look. That looks just right. Click OK. Now I'm going to come back to Transform. And this time I want one copy, but I'm going to move it horizontally this time. The width of my business card, 3.5 inches, but by the time I factor in the crop marks, I want to move it 4 inches. Turn on my preview. Let's go a little bit more. 4.25. That looks good. So there on a single A4 page are my 8 ganged up business cards. Now, using that technique means that if I were to discover in one of them that I had made a typo, then if I come back to the master file, make the change there, you'll see the change gets made in all of them. Now, whether or not that's what your printer is going to want, I can't say. You'll have to ask them. But we've seen there a couple of different techniques for preparing your business card, either as a one-up document, just one card, or in this case, ganged up as 8 to a single page.